Welcome back. This is the Intel on eNCA. We are discussing the issue of political killings with a particular focus in KwaZulu-Natal, but also extending to a number of other provinces, really, where we've seen a number of incidents, including here in Gauteng and most recently in the Northwest. So, Zwakele Mncwango, you're the one who brought up the whole issue around the Moerane Commission report, and rightly so, because the whole point of it when Willis Mchunu was Premier was that he wanted to understand the full contours of this issue of killings of activists to try and weigh in on all of these factors that we've been listing the last few minutes in this conversation. So are you concerned that nothing has happened since by way of implementing the recommendations of this report? If there was implementation, what would it be looking like right now?
Yeah, thanks, President. Yes, look, there were many findings and recommendations, and you're quite right. The purpose of this report was to investigate the root cause of the problem we're facing in the province of political killings. And part of the findings was actually exactly around resources. Now, the question why we are saying nothing has been done, there's been no communication in terms of what the Premier or current Premier is doing, because the report was tabled before the Premier with specific recommendations. For example, one of the recommendations was that there must be investigation on corrupt activities by politicians, public officials, business people, because business also corrupt politicians. So, and also politicians corrupt business people. So now nothing has been done about that. There was also a recommendation that talks to the process of ensuring that we are not appointing eNCA as councillors, for example. Now, the big question is, that comes to each political party, how our processes are ensuring that we are not electing or nominating individuals who might be becoming problems when they become councillors. Now, another problem we are facing is the prosecution part of it on the recommendation, because Moerane Commission recommended there must be speedily prosecution of those implicated. Now, with this report, there were names attached of individuals, and those individuals have not yet even charged for those crimes as per this report. Now, the issue we are facing also, you find it, hitmen eNCA get arrested, but you never find the handler of eNCA. That's a problem, because the senior leaders and politicians are behind someone sent eNCA to kill someone. Now, eNCA get arrested, but you find in our system, you find that there's no way where we hear when you arrest the handler. Yes, you arrest someone who killed a person, but someone sent this person to kill. Now, when do you arrest these senior politicians? And we're sitting here, none of us can come and say we know of any senior politicians who have been arrested to be behind the murder of any politician. Yes, we know some hitmen have been arrested, but what about handlers? There's an issue we should be honestly engaging on if we want to deal with the situation, because being hitman in eNCA is like a business in KZN. And sure. I agree with Sipho Ntombela that says the guns are all over. Sometimes you find people having big guns on the street as security, maybe securing someone. There's a big question. Why you have in an event, you have someone having this security with big guns in the public spaces? Again, it talks to the problem that besides having illegal firearms, you still have those legal firearms, but who are just parachuted all over the province. We must deal with those issues in this province.
I'm glad you bring that into the mix. Mr. Mazibuko, let me bring you in then. The Moerane Commission report is not being implemented as far as Zwakele Mncwango is concerned. Do you share that view? And if it was being implemented, where would we be by now by way of trying to curb these killings of political activists?
I do share the view. And Fortunately, as a member of the legislature myself, I know about that commission, rather report. I've gone through it. And indeed, the issues that he raises, including what it said, it criticized our criminal justice system and our national intelligence. As he rightly says, nothing really has happened. You know, there are cases, yes, there may be one or two, as the Minister of Police did actually allude to, but there are cases that remain unresolved. One case, for instance, of IFP Councillor Dlamini in Ulundi. Up until now, we don't know who killed him. So nothing has been done that can be said to be an implementation of the report. But it doesn't surprise us. It is a culture of this government to come up with commissions and reports, policies, but the implementation is very negligible, if any. There's nothing that is being done. If that report had been implemented, would have, to an extent, gone a long way towards eliminating political violence and the attitude of being defiant against the law by some people, especially criminals in this province. Because when you quickly deal with a situation, you're driving a lesson, you're sending a message to those who commit acts of violence that no, government is not playing marbles. You commit crime, you'll be arrested, and your sentence will be very hard. So as long as nothing is happening, they will gain confidence to commit crime with impunity.
Professor Sipho Seepe, in a moment I will give you the opportunity to bring it all together, but I have to yield to Nhlakanipho Ntombela, whom I can see is shaking his head as Mr. Mazibuko is speaking. Go ahead, Mr. Ntombela. What's going on? You should be holding your deployee to account for not implementing this report.
That is not true. Those recommendations were implemented. As we are speaking now, you've got the former councillors in eThekwini who are standing trial for corruption. It's because we have implemented those issues. You've got people arrested for the killing of Cindy Somakaka. Those are people who are arrested. It's because government has enhanced its capacity in investigation. It has enhanced its capacity of prosecuting those matters. You've got a new process now as the ANC of selecting your candidates. Right now, to be a mayor of the ANC, you must go through a panel of interviews. You must have a minimum qualifications. Those are some of the recommendations coming from that panel, that not just put anyone in position of authority without those person being of not good standing or what. So there are specific recommendations that have been implemented, and continuously as we move forward, the government is doing something on those matters. That's why we've got those cases in court as we speak. That's why the other members who were there were making noise that why is so-and-so always arrested in eThekwini now is deployed somewhere. It's because those people were arrested. That's a fact.
Prof. Seepe, let me bring you in then, tie it all together. The implementation or otherwise of the Moerane Commission report, but also the work of this political task team. In my intro, I said at the start of this show that it's perhaps a plaster that sort of is stemming the bleeding, but are we dealing with the wound itself? So just from that perspective, dealing with implementation, but also how effective is this task team?
Well, I think what's important is that we need to start having this discussion not only during elections and campaigning. It should be the language of democracy. The language of service should be a language of democracy. And it's also, we should also be kind to ourselves in the sense that as we try to work on this experiment called democracy, there'll be moments of refinement that need to happen. One must welcome first the Concord judgment, which allowed that individuals can avail themselves to serve their own communities. So that introduces a new dimension that is also important. Hence, you have independent candidates. But what that does, it gives a message that no party owns electorates, and that itself is positive. It is also good that you have parties like the ANC that are now refining their own process, because this is the same party that we also know that in some of the elections within the party, there were things called what you call festival of chairs, where members they were turning on each other. And when they were turning on each other, it was not really a wonderful scene. And when you have people elected through that form, it also sends a message to the rest of other people that for you to get there, you must actually use this element of brute force. So the fact that there's been a movement, but also that the party has also gone out of its way to say even members who are not members of the ANC, who are supported by the candidates, can actually get on the ANC tickets. That's also positive. But we must also deal with the issue of the causal issues. The issue of unemployment is a crisis. We need to find, and it's good that the parties agree on that. But what we need to do is to say, how do we deal with it? Where we have people, where there'll be mass employment of people. I mean, we have a challenge in terms of housing. We have challenge in terms of potholes. We have challenge in terms of maintenance and all that. So this can serve as ways in which you can have mass mobilization and mass employment. But what we tend to do, the tenders tend to create a problem. So the Moerane Commission may have identified the tender system, but there doesn't seem to be a way that gives the impression that that matter is addressed. The issue that I mentioned earlier, that we need to build a capable state where people are employed, so that we also try to stem this idea of instant millionaires. And because when people who are unemployed see people becoming instant millionaires, they also want the same. And then they are easy to be lured into those spaces.
All right, I've got to thank you, Professor Sipho Seepe. Thank you for joining in this conversation. Also joining in was Zwakele Mncwango from the Democratic Alliance, as well as Joshua Mazibuko from the IFP and Nhlakanipho Ntombela from the ANC. I thank you, gentlemen, for your insights and for your candid engagements on this particular issue of political killings.